You never know with Beryl. It was good though, right? So thank you for choosing to be with us today. I'm grateful for every single one of you, including all the new folks that I see in this room and the new ones who are joining us on Zoom and on the YouTube live stream. Without all y'all, this place doesn't exist. And that's an important thing for us to remember, because as a center, we are vital and vibrant when we are here, when we are present, when we are participative, when we are engaged, when we are interactive. And I've already gone off script, but so what? So one of the things that's really fascinating to me is in our day and time, so many people feel like they need to be completely independent, and there's not a need, I'll use that word, for community. There's not a need to participate. There's not a need to be connected with somebody. One of the things we discovered in the 27 months we were online is it actually is possible to connect virtually and to actually honestly, really legitimately have a I'm being recorded, I can't say it that way, have an intimate relationship with somebody through the electrons. Not in a weird, kinky way, but actually like real. And we don't believe that. We believe we've got to be sharing oxygen in order to have a real relationship. Isn't that bizarre? And so then we come back together, we start being back in person, 12th of June or whatever the day was, and I'm watching the numbers of people show up on Sunday continue to drop. I'm going, what is this? We have this desire to be in person. We have this desire to engage, but not really. Not seriously. So this is kind of a question in my mind, and it's one that's been bugging me for a while, because to me, there is only one of us, and it lives in, as, and through all life. Every person who's here, every person who's joining us on Zoom, every person who's having their spiritual experience this morning elsewhere, there's only one. And so we get to decide how we choose to be, and how we choose to have that experience of together, whatever that means for each one of us. And one of the things that's so challenging is we've got this I don't even know what the word I want is, this thing that's contraindicated. Because we've got this American decision of being an independent human being. And yet we've also got this social desire to be part of a group. And both of those ideas coexist in us. And so now, in this space and time of being in person and joining electronically, hi everybody online, and this notion of, do we gather in person? Do we gather in person next week for our annual meeting? Or do we just go do our own lollygag thing elsewhere? Every one of us has our own opportunity and our own authority to decide what's best for each one of us. And that's individual. And so each one of us gets to decide what we choose to have for our experience. It's awkward, right? We're here. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to see my old, friendly faces, and as Sharon said earlier, and all y'all who are new, that I hope will become friendly faces that we see week to week, at least above the mask, and we get to know who you are. We get to have a physical, visceral, deep and profound experience of your persona. So there's where I'm at. I mean, next week we are having our annual meeting, and because we have Dr. Karen, I keep calling her doctor, she's not, Reverend Karen speaking for us next week. Today's the day I get to talk about the year we've had and what we have planned for next year. And I also want to remind those of you who are members that you should have gotten a postcard in the mail. You know, snail mail, that. We use it because it's in our bylaws. That if you're a member, you get a snail mail postcard that says the annual meeting's coming, please show up. And in the newsletter, there is the annual report, which is a synopsis of our last year. Because there needs to be a record in writing, well, electrons, of what we've done. Because we don't remember. I don't remember. Did I really do that this year? Wow. And that's not like because I have gray hair or anything. That's just because we're busy humans. So anyway, I want to encourage you to look in the newsletter and read our annual report, and open that and read our annual report to see where we've been, to remind yourself of the ground we've covered in this last year, because it's actually been a lot. And then I do want to encourage you to come next Sunday to hear Reverend Karen speak. And Linda gave you her bio, so I'm not going to belabor that particularly. And then Pat's doing an in-person class. She's awesome. I do an online class. I'm awesome too. And so either choice is great. And if you don't feel like classes because it's not your gig, you can still follow along. Because we're going to be talking about how our relationship with our finances reflects our relationship with everything else. It's not separate. It's the same because there's only one, right? We have all these different aspects of ourselves, and it's the totality of our being that is how we appear in the world. So anyway, all that, blah, blah. So today's talk title is Stepping into Our Next Best Thing. And when I looked at that, I wondered what I was thinking. And then I thought, well, that's weird because next best thing implies that there's a better thing. Oh, I forgot the comma. Because our next thing can be our best thing if we choose it. That's up to us. Not me, not the board, not the practitioners, not even our beautiful band. Us. We get to decide what our next thing, our best thing is. So I have a couple questions. And those of you who are new, these are legitimate questions for you because you've chosen to be part of this. It's like, what is CSL Tucson for you? Why did you show up? Why are you here? Why are those of you who have come back, some of you for longer than me, why are you here? What is it that this center provides for you? What is going back to a way long time ago, what is our function conjunction? And why do you choose to participate the way you do? Or why do you choose not to? Because each of those questions is valid and legitimate. Why do you make the choice you make? So ever since I joined this center back in 2009, we've had this collective story about why we exist as a community. And for me, there's one of these that's actually a bigger thing than the other, but that's just me, right? There's two reasons. One, learning and growing. That's my best one. And the second one is about having an experience of community. And for other people, that's their biggest thing, because that's the reason they come together, because they want to have that one-on-one feeling, that connection, that heart connection. The trick is the heart connection's already there. It's our brain that gets in the way, because this is responsive no matter what. And as you know from the heart math teaching, what's beating behind my rib cages touches the whole room. And that's true for every single person in this room. Every single one of us impacts every other one, because we're already all connected. So we've got a personal reason. I want to learn and grow and get stronger in my understanding and beliefs. And there's this interpersonal thing. How do we be together? And both parts matter. So here's my puzzle. Back in January, we did a 2-day community envisioning of what we wanted to be in 2022. And we all had imagination things going on back in January, because we thought 2022 was going to be different than 2020 and 2021. Ha-ha. And it wasn't. And that was really a bummer, because we wanted to have fun. We wanted to play. We wanted to go do social stuff. And the world didn't say yes, because we were still in this constrained, confined position of can't really. And here's another dilemma that's part of our teaching. Is that real? Sure feels like it. The truth is no. The truth is the experience is not real. It's an experience. It's a form, it's a creation, it's a construct. What's true is that there's only love, and it lives in every single person, and everyone is free all the time already. And we have this story we tell ourselves and each other. Does that mean we don't wear these things in public? Oh no, it means we wear them, because we are being protective and conscientious as humans in this human experience. See the dichotomy of life that's going on for us? And there is a part of us that would love to go back to the good old days. And what I know is there's no such thing. Good old days exist in our imagination, and we make them gooder than they were. Because the good old days weren't that great. They had just as many warts and, that the present days do. And so we've got all of these sort of gnarly bits that we get to work out. It's part of our opportunity to become more present and more conscious and more attentive to our lives. So, 2020, 2021, 2022, we did a whole lot of good stuff. All of it was online to start with, because it had to be. Some of it still is online because it's more convenient. Daily morning practice, 6 days a week, and for a time it was actually 7. Group of people, self-selecting, chose to be in public or chose to be online together. Sacred Cinema, it started as a movie watching group when we were in person, and that really got long and boring and inconvenient. So it's like, okay, so let's watch a movie separately and then come together and share what it felt like, what we learned, what we experienced, how it changed us. Prosperity Mastermind Group? Self-explanatory, right? You gotta play to win. You don't have to play. You don't have to win. You gotta play to win. That's true of life. You have to play to win. Different words. You have to play to have an experience of winning. Because everybody's already a winner. We just don't feel it. We just don't understand it in our being. And online classes, which continue online because we discovered we actually like them better because people don't have to drive at night. People who live far away can participate. People that don't even live in the state or the country can participate with us. And it's like, wow, this is so cool. You know, not even just North America. We have these tools. We have to use them. No, we don't have to. We have the opportunity to use them. And we did this last year, have a few things that were in person. We have a group of folks that are creative, that choose to play in the creative realm, and they gather in person. Sometimes some houses prefer masks to show up, and sometimes they don't, because it's all about personal choice of the host and personal responsibility of the participants. And then the Full Moon Labyrinth Walk was outside. That's still going on in person. We have advertised that in Natural Awakenings magazine a couple times and have actually gotten people to join that are not part of our group because of that advertisement, and that's really cool. And then I understand there's a men's group. I'm not a guy, but I understand. They've been meeting since 2014, every other week. Wow. It's not a closed group per se, but you've got to agree to their agreements, and you've got to be really, really intentional about being part of it. Like, thou shalt show up every time, not just when it's convenient. Wow. And some of them were on Zoom, and some were outside, and some are in person, and right now that they're meeting in person, some are still on Zoom. Because you can do that if you're intentional. And then we've got I don't even know what to call it, a passive thing that we do, where if you want to be part of it, you can, which is our informal community directory. You gotta play to win. If you want to have your name on the list, it's available to you. But the only way you can get it is to have your name on the list. And that will be coming out with a new iteration this next month. So in the newsletter, there's a spot. If you're not in it or you need to change your contact information, it's on you. You get to do that. So now that we're back in person, the lunch bunch is back, as you have already heard. If socialization is your thing, and you really like hanging out with your church family, it's not everybody's gig. And that's quite all right. But it is some people's gig. And then there's our Sunday service. I'm thrilled to see all y'all here. I'm thrilled to know that people are here in Zoom and on YouTube. I won't know how many folks are out there in Zoom land until later. And our band, our guys, have been giving us quality music for the 3 months we've been back in person, and for the 27 months we were online. Nobody did that. Nobody did that during the Zoom years. We were the only one. Because our musicians knew it was important to us that they give us quality music. And we supported them in that. And we're highly appreciative. And so we're back in person. And I stand here and I'm a little conflicted because our lowest attendance on Zoom was 24 people. I've watched numbers be lower than that since we've been back in person. And it hurts me. Today it's 25. But it hurts me. And this is a situation that it's not limited to CSL Tucson. It's actually pretty much ubiquitous with churches and centers. In fact, the CSL ministers are getting together over Zoom the next 2 days, and the topic of the conversation is how do we tell the truth about the vitality of our centers? And how can we reimagine them? And how do we reimagine what our world looks like if the Sunday morning gathering is not where it's at? I don't know the answer. That's a hard one, right? Because this thing that we think of as Sunday morning, we have this crystallized idea, and maybe it's not that. Maybe it's not that anymore. Maybe that's why our Sundays of 21 people, including 7 on Zoom, were true. We get to decide. I can't make it so, because I don't have that authority over you, and I'm so glad that's true. And so are you. And you don't have that authority over me, and I'm glad about that. So we've got this decision point for each one of us, how we choose to participate, how we choose to engage. And so my question is, what is the function that CSLT serves you? And the answer is going to be variable for each person, and it may even change over time. And how are you served by being here or being elsewhere? This center is a form. It's an experience. In fancy words, it's an outpicturing of the way our brains, the way our minds create. What's true is there's only one. It's God, it's life, it's love, and it lives in all of us, whether we're physically in this room or not. Whether we choose to have our church experience on our back porch with our coffee, or hiking, or chanting with the Buddhists. We're at choice. Everyone is. And if we don't like our experience, we get to change it. Because we change our minds. I've been talking about change your mind to change your life all month. Because that's the thing that sat on my head and said, you will talk about this. Because it is the capital T truth for each one of us. We change our experience when we change our perception, the way we change our way of seeing and being in the world. So way back, in the dark ages in 2009, when I walked in the center the first time, I looked like a newbie. And the minister at the time, Reverend Donald, said, I bet you're good with numbers and computer stuff. And I said, well, yeah, why? He said, well, I kind of need somebody to do some data entry. I said, well, maybe I can do that. What is it? And he told me, and it's like, yeah, I can do that. So I'm working in the office, in the back office, and I'm working on the numbers, and I'm in foundations class by this time. So I've begun this exploration. And I'm sitting in the back typing numbers in, and it's no big deal. But I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm thinking. And I walk into his office one day, and I said, so why do people keep showing up? And why do people, like, give the center money? I mean, we don't have any threats. There's no shame, there's no guilt, there's no sin, there's no evil, there's no devil, there's no angry God, there's no punishment. We got nothing. Why do people keep coming? Why do people keep participating? And he looked at me, he's kind of side-eye. He looked at me and said, it's a kick, isn't it? It's a kick. People show up because they want to. People participate. People contribute. People support. People engage because this fills them somehow. What a kick. But I was absolutely puzzled because my background, of course, you got this angry God that if you don't behave exactly like you're supposed to, there's a stick. And if you do, of course, there's a carrot. But this teaching, there's no sin, there's no evil, there's no devil, there's no blame, there's no shame, there's no guilt, there's no constraint. We choose. And we experience the consequences of our choice. So, if this is of interest to you, tomorrow night's class, we're going to be talking about all of these things, about how science of mind looks at evil and sin and devil and heaven and hell and because in this teaching, we get to explore and experience and express the heaven that lives in us and as us all the time, which is way different than what you learn outside of this room. So about 4 years ago, about 20 months into my gig as senior minister here, Dick Laird was our treasurer back then. And Dick and I had a really ugly realization. That week, we had emptied our reserves to pay the bills. We were out of money. Our attendance was as low as I'd ever seen it. It was 45. It's like, we got no money, we got no people, we are screwed. It's like, that's not useful. Stop it. And so Dick and I, between us, talked about what do we do now? How do we move forward? Because this is our experience, even if it isn't true. It is our experience in this world of form. And so we decided that we would go talk to our host at the time about breaking our lease and moving to the office, because we couldn't afford to pay the rent. We couldn't afford to pay the band. We couldn't afford to pay me. We didn't have the money. We went to our landlord at the time and said, I'm sorry, we'd love to be here, but we can't because we can't afford to pay you. And they said, we'd like you to stay anyway. How much can you afford? Okay, so we did. And then our attendance grew from that 45 up to 70. Because we were able to change our minds about that, change our perception about that, see a way that it did work. And then the pandemic hit. And people were really annoyed that we weren't meeting in person. And our attendance dropped from 70 to back to 40 again. And then the pandemic lengthened. And people started expressing their displeasure with being on Zoom by not showing up. That's their choice. We are all at choice all the time. Some people went elsewhere. Some people discovered they could Zoom or live stream with their favorite churches elsewhere and become home comfy on their couches. And some, discovered that Sabino Canyon made a great church. And it does. Or sitting at home on their patio watching the birds. Because every single one of us is at choice. It's our birthright to have our experience of the divine and decide how important it is for us to have an experience of community or to find a way to have community separate from this. We found this place because of Janet 5 or 6 months ago. We've been here coming on 4 months. I really thought we'd outgrow this space in 6. So far not, which is nice in a way, right? Because it's a comfortable space, it's easy. It's very comfortable. It's cozy, it's friendly. It'll give us a home for now. We get to decide. So I'm going to repeat the spiritual thought that Sharon read earlier today, and then I'm going to close with a poem by David Whyte. The spiritual thought that Sharon read from Ernest Holmes' The Science of Mind, page 267. The law through which humans operate is infinite, but humans appear to be finite. That is, they have not yet evolved to a complete understanding of themselves. They unfold from a limitless potential, but can bring into their experience only that which they can conceive. There is no limit to the law, but there appears to be a limit to the human's understanding of it. As their understanding unfolds, their possibilities of attainment increase. Each one of us has that limitless potential in us, has that opportunity to experience the world of our choosing. And we have to choose it. And then from David Whyte, one of my favorite poems of his, everything is waiting for you. Your great mistake is to act the drama as if you were alone, as if life were a progressive and cunning crime with no witness to the tiny hidden transgressions. To feel abandoned is to deny the intimacy of your surroundings. Surely, even you at times have felt the grand array, the swelling presence, and the chorus crowding out your solo voice. You must note the way the soap dish enables you, or the window latch grants you freedom. Alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. The stairs are your mentor of things to come. The doors have always been there to frighten you and invite you. And the tiny speaker in the phone is your dream ladder to divinity. Put down the weight of your aloneness and ease into the conversation. The kettle is singing even as it pours you a drink. The cooking pots have left their arrogant aloofness and seen the good in you at last. All the birds and creatures of the world are unutterably themselves. Everything is waiting for you. Everything indeed waits for us and on us. The gift has already been given. Every single one of us is infinite. Every single one of us is eternal. Every single one of us is divine. We get to have the experience of learning that and sharing that. We get to embrace that and embody it. And let that become part of our everyday reality. It's a great problem to have. And it takes work. We get to decide whether we want to do it or not. Choose. Bless yourself and bless us all. Thank you. So I'm going to roll into the prayer. And as you know, we pray affirmatively around here, which is claiming the good we desire. And if there's stuff that's in the way, we acknowledge it, because pretending like it's not there is not useful. And the code word for that is even though. Even though I don't believe this, or even though I doubt it, or even though I'm not sure. Yeah, it's there, even though. I still claim the good. So if I've said something useful for you, that you heard today, or made up, either way, I'm good. Hold it in your mind while I speak the words. I celebrate this life. I celebrate this opportunity to learn and grow and be in community. I celebrate this opportunity to remember divinity for me and for all. I celebrate this opportunity to remember that each already is their infinite, limitless self. And each one has the potential to know that. And even though the present day experience may be in the way, because there's garbage thinking that has to be taken out, I remember and know and affirm that love is the answer to the question, that life is the result, that God lives as every single being, and that each already is divine and whole and perfect and magnificent. And so I remind myself again and again and again, and I know the same truth for every other being. Each one has that opportunity to shift perspective, to shift point of view, to shift decision, and see this life as infinitely perfect. Accepting the challenge of this activity, I relax. I know the gift already is given. I accept it, I receive it, and I let it be. And so it is.